Frank just pressed a button on the remote, and $1 billion hit his account. But before he could even process that, 20 rare luxury cars pulled up in front of him, and the same parents who were flat broke 3 days ago stepped out and walked right up to Frank. Frank was completely speechless. Was his life actually playing out like one of those drama shows, the lost heir to a media empire? The thought hit him, and he grabbed his brand new wife Lisa and said, "Those drama shows were actually telling the truth. My parents are the richest people on the planet, and I'm the one heir they lost years ago." 20 years ago Frank was just a little kid when he got separated from his parents, believing he'd never see them again. He grew up completely on his own, and eventually found someone to share his life with. But what Frank never expected was that right as he and Lisa were getting married, his long-lost parents suddenly showed up. Before coming to find him, his parents had become chairman of a trillion-dollar empire, controlling a massive fortune. But after 20 years apart, they needed to test Frank's character first. If he passed, they'd hand him everything. So they disguised themselves as a poor country couple, showing up with a chicken from the farm to see if Frank's heart had stayed true. But the moment they revealed themselves to Frank, Lisa standing right there couldn't stand the sight of it. Parents this poor were simply unacceptable to someone as snobbish as Lisa. She wanted nothing to do with them. Frank endured every bit of Lisa's nastiness, trying to keep both sides from feeling humiliated. But Lisa's whole family was known for being cold-blooded snobs. There was no way they'd ever accept Frank's country parents. Even if they hadn't seen each other in 20 years, nothing was going to stop the disrespect. But thanks to Frank holding it together, the wedding went ahead as planned. And when Frank brought his parents to his tiny new apartment, right as they were about to walk in, Lisa threw the bedding out into the hallway. She wanted Frank's parents to sleep on the hallway floor that night, flat out refusing to let them inside. Frank said his parents would take the room, and he and Lisa would sleep in the hallway. That nearly sent Lisa through the roof, and she finally let them in. When Frank finished cooking and was ready to serve the meal, Lisa deliberately threw the meatballs at them, and refused to let them sit at the table, because they weren't worthy. Frank tried to step in, but it was useless. Then Lisa hit her breaking point. She declared that if anyone dared sit down to eat, she'd divorce Frank on the spot. The moment Frank heard the word divorce, he finally snapped. He'd put up with so much from Lisa, only for her to keep escalating her contempt. He told her fine, this marriage was over. Lisa had only meant to scare him, but Frank was dead serious. With no way back, Lisa agreed to meet him at the marriage registration office in 3 days. His parents, who had been watching everything, after a day full of drama, finally saw exactly who their son really was. They stood firmly behind Frank, fully supporting the divorce. And they told Frank, a woman like that was never worthy of being their daughter-in-law. And after the divorce went through, there was a massive surprise waiting for him. But Frank had just gotten married and was already getting divorced. He was in no headspace to process what they meant. Figured they were just trying to comfort him. 3 days flew by. As Frank was heading to the registration office, his parents handed him a remote control and made him promise to only press the button after the divorce was fully finalized. Frank didn't think twice about it and headed straight to the office. Lisa showed up right on time, bringing 2 of her girlfriends along to back her up, and she didn't stop humiliating Frank for a second. Even when the staff brought up dividing assets, Lisa didn't even flinch. Frank's little bit of money wasn't even worth her attention, and on top of that, she had the nerve to tell Frank she was getting married the moment the divorce was done. Before she could even finish, Johnny showed up, a guy who called himself a rich second gen. That's when Frank realized Lisa had been cheating behind his back the whole time. You'd think Frank would be the only one disgusted by Lisa, but even one of her own girlfriends couldn't stomach it, and called her out right there for being shameless. Then, to save Frank from the embarrassment, right as Lisa and Johnny were registering their marriage, she told Frank to hand over his ID, then pulled out her own ID, and handed both to the registration clerk, asking to register their marriage. Frank's jaw dropped. Even Lisa was stunned by what her girlfriend just did. But this girl had always had feelings for Frank, and she didn't care what anyone thought. With the marriage certificate in hand, she pulled Frank and they walked out together. Even if he only had an e-bike, she was perfectly happy. That's when Frank remembered what his dad told him. He reached into his pocket and pulled out the remote, and pressed the white button right then and there. Before he could even react, his phone buzzed, a bank notification for $1 billion. He thought it had to be a scam. Then a line of luxury cars appeared in the distance, pulling up and stopping right in front of him, and his parents stepped out dressed in expensive clothes, making their entrance. They were here to bring Frank home. Lisa and Johnny froze, completely dumbstruck.